Greetings lads and lasses. My master DualBoxDtox welcomes you to today's lecture of how to get good at Hwang, and here we go. Gameplay aside, the significance of this character has been criminally understated. Over the years of Soul Calibur history, this Hall of Fame status of a character was one of the OGs in Soul Edge, and the face of its title. In numerous times, he was the Ken to Mitsurugi's Ryo, and for a lack of a better word, one of the Toshotus in the Soul Calibur franchise. Historically speaking, it is an utter insult to have him as a DLC character, and not as a base game character. However, speaking of gameplay, this character can only be described as the John Wick of Soul Calibur 6. The level of dexterity and adaptation to every situation this blade sorcerer wields completely outclasses any other character in Soul Calibur 6. And that is just the technical part, because his moveset and animations are more than enough to hook you into playing him for at least a month. To Hwang, every stage is nothing but a canvas to paint on. You can tell that Hwang was a passion project for the developers. Looking at how he reintroduced as the hero's comeback, everything in his move list from critical edge to a simple counter hit has the utmost care and creativity put into them. Not to mention that the more you have played the franchise of Soul Calibur, the more Hwang will single-handedly reward you for that accumulated knowledge. Furthermore, on the topic of gameplay, I say this without a hint of exaggeration. If you are incapable of planning at least 5 steps ahead, then this character is nothing but a miserable time for you. I'd be lying if I said that I'm 100% confident in the accuracy of this guide, as he is a bottomless pit of potential. He is what you would call a 5D chess character.
Dude, I feel like you need a PhD to play this character. He's so weird.
No other character punishes you for carelessness and lack of awareness as much as Hwang does, but in the same time immensely rewards you for careful planning and assessing every situation. Looking at his move list on surface level may seem uncomplicated and simple. However, keeping an eye on talisman usage, aura usage, meter usage and lethal hit conditions that are tied to all three, on top of the entirety of the match flow and opponent, can easily make you drop this character instantly. Basic moves, auras, meter, talismans, stances. These are the 5 dimensions of Hwang's gameplay, intertwined and interlinked. They are the very source of his complexity. Basic moves are the foundation, meant to control and maintain the flow of the match. By far the most important of the 5, auras are the direction you want to take the match. You can call this your initial strategy. Talismans is your bank account. It will grant you bonuses during your wealth, bankruptcy, and debt. Additionally, it grants you ways to either gain or spend your talismans out of your resources. This one is the hardest to manage and most rewarding. Stances. These are meant to discombobulate and bamboozle. 4 stances in total. Their only drawback is that they will have you living under a bridge by final round, if used carelessly. Meter. This is a resource shared by all characters in the game. However, Hwang's meter usage adds an additional layer to each of his 4 previously mentioned layers. It is my personal advice that during learning this character is to not even attempt using Soul Charge until you have fully understood the other 4 aspects of Hwang, and only restrict yourself to using his critical edge. What separates Korea's G.I. Joe from rest of the cast is that his entire toolkit have a time and a place. Diversity and dexterity are his key strengths. The purpose of this list is not to rely on it entirely, but to use it as a base of operations for everything else. Hayate, a prolific player and a Soul Calibur content creator, has compiled a good list of key moves, which I'm going to explain here today, separating them in 3 different categories. I will proceed to emphasize the ones that are most important. On a side note, Hayate's documents is one of the most detailed character guides I've ever witnessed. If you're a Soul Calibur player of any kind, I highly recommend checking it out where it is linked below. 660 is Hwang's best move, by far the most applicable in his toolkit. It can be downright oppressive, dictating the Oki game, neutral and the mix-up. to an extent where even whiffing it can pose a threat. Giving you 2 stances for the price of only 1 talisman per each, it is easily your bread and butter in almost every situation. While Rising B, much like 6-6B, it can transition to both stances for the same talisman cost. However, where 6-6B is only I-16, while Rising B is I-14, granting you a free knockdown, wall splat or instant death to your opponents at a much faster frame advantage, making it a near perfect punishment tool, considering that you either choose to commit to a mix-up or the safety of hit confirming your targets. 6A plus B. This one is similar to While Rising B, in which you can also hit confirm your opponents or enforce stance mix-up at the cost of 1 talisman. That being said, the primary oppressive strength of this tool come from its effective keep out and movement control. Hwang players only need to snipe you ignoring the block button at least 3 times with this move before your life bar shrinks to 30%. Getting shanked by this Korean inmate is enough to turn your life bar into a hashtag or enjoy a lengthy cutscene of your own ass clapping. I initially wanted to speak about stances, but for that to be of help, I must address the bigger encapsulating system, which is the talisman economy. And why is it the very heart of Hwang's complexity? And the reason is very simple. It is because your talisman count is what will dictate how you will approach most of your lethal hits, your stances, your aura choice, meter, and some of your expensive moves. To put it simply, you want to avoid this at all cost, or at the very minimum, strike a good balance to where you don't suffer this at an early round. If you haven't guessed yet, your talisman bank account is what will dictate your next round's life bar, hence the name, Life Force. A positive count unlocks 2 early lethal hits, and a negative count unlocks 3 of your most powerful lethal hits. There are many ways to spend your Life Force talismans, and only 7 ways to regain them. Number 1. Getting 2 free talismans beginning of each round, after the first one. This is the easiest method, and the last time you hear the word free. Number 2. Landing your critical edge on a 30% life bar or lower gains you 3 talismans, theoretically gaining 5 in total if you win the round. Number 3. Holding K during Yin Yang stance will grant you 2 talismans for the price of some guard stamina. On the flip side, you can regain some guard stamina holding B during whooshing stance, costing you 2 talismans. But applying these 2 properly will require triple-digit IQ points, which you are not ready for yet. Number 4. In Resolve Aura, you will get a single talisman every time your life bar hits below 30%. Considering that this aura can help you regain some HP, you might be able to farm multiple talismans before your death. Number 5. In Devastation Aura, you will gain 2 talismans every time opponents activate a soul charge. Number 6. In Might Aura, 2 stocks will be deposited whenever Hwang reach 80% guard damage or higher. Number 7. And finally, during Iron Will Aura, you will be able to gain the most amount of stocks in one hit, in either 3 additional, 6 additional, or 9 additional talismans. Activating Iron Will status saps you the most amount of life force, giving it a decent give and take balance, especially since applying the 6 and 9 stock regains are challenging to apply. If all of this is frying your brain, I'm happy to tell you that we are just getting started. There are 4 auras, or states, that Hwang can be in, each serving a different function, with a clear end goal, and a usefulness during reaching that goal, each having a conditional lethal hit as their end goal, and 3 primary moves to milk them for aura use. Resolve Aura is the easiest and most beginner friendly aura. Using the 3 primary moves will help you regain life points. Additionally, along with the stock of life force gained, you'll unlock an anti-low lethal hit, punishing round-ending lows, or adding to the mind game's pressure. Devastation Aura, the most applicable aura status, and as the name suggests, the most devastating. Even Gerald, with all his anti-soul charge toolkit, cannot inflict 1/10 of the anxiety and damage that this aura can inflict on opponents. Hwang will watch you pop out a universally used win condition and easily reverse that shit back at you, even leaving Yoshi players bamboozled at how much better he is at stealing opponents' meter as his own. Might Aura. In my opinion, this might be the hardest aura to use and apply properly, and a true testament of a Hwang player's adopting skills, leading many to either deem it useless or counterproductive, when in reality, it can manipulate the odds of an unfavorable situation to be in your favor. To explain it briefly, this status benefits only from being in a low guard break status, where 2 talismans are gained and a guard impacting lethal hit condition is unlocked. The beauty of this lethal hit is that it can be performed numerous times while being in low stamina, effectively punishing blind aggression on your opponent's part, enforcing either further mind games or a very humiliating path to a comeback victory. Iron Will Aura. Few degrees lower in difficulty than Might Aura, Iron Will is the most rewarding and terrifying if mastered to perfection. Hwang's Soul Charge is already on the stronger side of the spectrum. Weaponizing it further with Iron Will status is nothing short of exacting the devil's work, balanced only by its high talisman cost and cancelling out your entire Soul Charge activation. In return, you can either spend it on lethal hit that returns the life force cost you spent, in addition to sizable damage, or get a counter hit status on any move you choose to land, making this a diabolical chess move once you figure out that you can stack a second Soul Charge on top of Iron Will Aura. Now that all of the complexities are out of the way, we can break down stances at ease. Simply put, there are 4 stances in total. 2 of them can easily be accessed, and the other 2 will need to be treated like a maxi stance. Yin Yang and Wushin stances will be available at your fingertips, each granting you incredible mix-up potential at the cost of 1 to 2 talisman cost. Flowcharting into these stances is like using a grenade as a tennis ball. Every stance transition must be done with full intention, demure, and mindfulness. Either that, or you get the fuck back to playing Talisman 2B. Next, we got Divine Wings stance and Flames of Justice stance. Each of these 2 can be transitioned from being in either Yin Yang or Wushin, adding more layers to your mix-up game, while each of the 2 complementing each other perfectly. Divine Wings gives you all the options you need without worrying about your ankles, while Flames of Justice does what can only be described as the best chip damage in the entire game, while covering large distances, inflicting guard damage, and a hell sweep with auto deflect. Balanced only by their long startup frames, this stance is the best answer to anyone attached to aimless blocking. And the final icing on the cake is the both Divine Wings and Flames of Justice. In addition to getting a damage buff, both of them can directly be accessed in Soul Charge mode and without the cost of any talismans, making Magic K-Pop Boy wielder of one of the strongest Soul Charges in the entire game, nerfed only by the IQ of his player. With Hwang, 4 distinct weaknesses comes to mind. Life bar. It is a near impossibility for a Hwang player to play an entire match without a life bar deficit. You are almost always at a less than 100% life bar, and the more difficult the match is, the more of it Hwang players will suffer. No talisman is not an option. Plainly speaking, every character in this game have their own BS as their bread and butter. For Hwang to simply keep up, using talismans is his only answer. Hwang players everywhere will immediately tell you that not using talismans is like using your bare hands to shoot a bullet instead of a gun. Plan commitment. Unlike most of the cast, Hwang players will have to commit to one of 3 scenarios: a life deficit, a soul charge overuse, or a low guard stamina. Matches can be very unpredictable, and opponents can simply counter falling into an obvious trap. Nonetheless, Hwang players will need to gamble on a path before deciding on a better one. Hwang is untuned. This character is unique in the sense that he is the only one who the developers have not updated since his release, where every character in the roster has enjoyed several improvements over the years. The K-pop warrior is still rough around the edges. Some moves require a bit more consistency, and some others need to be more applicable than few niche situations. Out of all the characters, this solo leveling weeaboo will reward you the most on all the deep and intricate matchup knowledge accumulated over the years and decades on this franchise. If there was ever a legitimate version of Vegemaster, mechanically speaking, Hwang would be the best version of him. Or in the very least, a good blueprint for a newer Soul Calibur game. In all honesty, this has to be the largest piece of guide this channel has ever put out. And yet, this is nothing but the tip of the iceberg. What I have given you today is merely a starting point and a solid foundation. Nonetheless, despite the sophistication of this character, one of the best things about Hwang is that he is readily accessible by all skill levels, and the lack of any execution barriers. Just to give you an idea, where's what your Hwang should look like.